Hello, welcome to the Security Update with me, Hamse Daabjeerin. In this program, we will be covering for you the latest stories that matter security in the African countries from West to Horn of Africa. Ahead on the program, troops defect from Somalia arrived in Hargeisa. US urges de-escalation between Sudan and Ethiopia. Somalia drove its lawsuit against former security minister of Jubaland State. Al-Shabaab targeting Kenyan troops with improvised explosive devices. Sudan declares emergency as tribal violence claiming 40 lives in Darfur. Welcome to the program. The Somaliland government has confirmed they have received troops defect from the government of Somalia. The government said the 4 troops were trained in the USA and Turkey. Somalia has neither accepted nor denied this matter. Somaliland government has affirmed that they have received 4 Somalia's National Army defectors in Hargeisa who have surrendered to the Somaliland troops on Monday. According to the Somaliland military officials, the 4 defectors were trained in the USA and Turkey. Somaliland described the surrender as big blow for Somalia as they displayed certificates of the defector military officials. The government identified them as Yusuf Muhammad Jama, Jabril Ismail Usman, Mahmoud Ahmad Ali, and Muhammad Hassan Hashi. The 4 commanders claimed to have been brainwashed and regretted the move to join Somalia's military, though the federal government of Somalia has neither accepted nor denied this matter. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Monday prayed for an easing of tensions between Sudan and Ethiopia as fears grow of spillover from the bloody Tigray conflict.
On a telephone call with Sudanese Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok, Blinken raised the need to de-escalate tensions between Sudan and Ethiopia over the Al-Fashaq border area, including recent commitments to engage in dialogue to resolve the issue, State Department spokesman Ned Price said. The fertile area claimed by both countries has seen a rise in skirmishes as Sudan sends in troops, which Ethiopia has described as an invasion. The farmland borders Ethiopia's Tigray region, where Addis Ababa launched an offensive against the local leadership in November, sending some 60,000 refugees fleeing into Sudan. The United States has been increasingly critical of Ethiopia, a long-standing ally, with Blinken earlier saying that the Tigray campaign involved ethnic cleansing.
They need to come out, and a force that will not abuse the human rights of the people of Tigray or commit acts of ethnic cleansing, which we've seen in western Tigray, that has to stop.
The State Department welcomed a weekend announcement by Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed that troops from neighboring Ethiopia accused of perpetrating atrocities had begun a promised withdrawal from Tigray. U.S. relations have warmed markedly with Sudan since Hamdok, a civilian, took office in transitional government following the toppling of dictator Omar al-Bashir. Sudan also last week paid $335 million in compensation over anti-U.S. attacks from when Bashir welcomed al-Qaeda as part of an Islamist turn in the 1990s. Blinken separately hailed Sudan's signing of an agreement with a rebel faction, the Sudanese People's Liberation Movement in the north. Blinken also discussed the latest attempts to jumpstart diplomacy on the massive Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, which Addis Ababa is moving ahead on despite protests from Sudan and Egypt, which rely heavily on Nile water. US-led talks under former President Donald Trump failed to reach a resolution. The United Arab Emirates recently became the last to offer to mediate.
The federal government of Somalia has dropped a lawsuit against the former Jubaland security minister, Abdirashid Janan. This came days after he surrendered to the federal government forces in Pelatau last month. Somalia has dropped all the lawsuits against Abdirashid Janan following a request by the country's Attorney General, while the government formally announced that his case has been completely closed. This came days after he surrendered to the federal government forces in Pelatau last month. The federal government of Somalia had previously accused him of human rights violation during his time as the security minister of Jubaland State and issued an international warrant of arrest against Janan last year after he escaped custody in Mogadishu. The president of the state sacked him last month, allegedly reaching a consensus with the federal government in which the regional administration has political disagreement with it. Janan was wanted for alleged human rights violations in the Gede region. Jubaland forces under the command of Janan fought with the federal government last year and this year in Pelatau, resulting in deaths and displacements. At least 40 people have been killed and thousands of people displaced in tribal clashes since Saturday in El Chenena, the capital of West Darfur, thereby prompting Sudan to declare it a state of emergency.
On Monday, the United Nations said that at least 40 people had been killed and more than 50 injured after violence broke out on Saturday between Arab groups and the non-Arab Masalite ethnic community in the city of Al Janina. Other tribal clashes took place in January in Darfur, killing more than 200 people, a little more than 2 weeks after the end of the joint United Nations African Union Peace Mission, UNAMID. Al Janina paid the highest price with more than 100 dead, 132 injured and 108,000 displaced, according to OCHA. The humanitarian operations and flights have been suspended until further notice in the city, which represents a hub of humanitarian aid in the region, affecting more than 700,000 people, said the United Nations. According to the same source, the clashes started after 2 people died and 2 others were wounded when a man shot at members of Al-Masalit tribe who were towing their car at El Janina on Saturday. The situation remains tense in the town as the 2 sides mobilize their forces. It adds, the agency says humanitarian operations have been suspended and the humanitarian flights have been cancelled until the security situation improves. The town acts as a hub for delivering aid, and over 700,000 people are now affected by the deterioration of the security situation, according to United Nations. In January, conflicts between the Masalit and the Arab communities led to the death of at least 129 people and displacement of over 108,000 people, with most of them sheltering in schools and health facilities in town. The transitional government, established after the fall of Omar al-Bashir, signed a peace deal in October with several rebel groups, particularly from Darfur, but some insurgent groups in that region have not signed the peace agreement.
A graphic video secretly recorded by a whistleblower in the Ethiopian army shows what seems to be Ethiopian troops executing an estimated 34 unarmed men in the Tigray region in January, the US-based Tigray media houses reported.
According to the International Criminal Court, extrajudicial execution of an unarmed individual is considered to be a war crime. Later, the video shows prisoners walking in a line as one soldier instructs others to shoot them in the head. Before still images show soldiers kicking several cops off of a small cliff. Soldiers can be heard urging others to minimize the use of ammunition while confirming no prisoners are left alive. All 34 prisoners seen in the video have been presumed dead. An analysis of the video published by CNN in collaboration with Amnesty International seemed to corroborate the video, finding that it had indeed featured soldiers in Ethiopian army uniforms, with the surrounding landscape seeming to line up with an area of central Tigray which had recently reported a massacre. In addition, the analysis found that the soldiers in the video were speaking the Ethiopian language Amharic, which is not typical of the local region, though it is largely spoken only in Ethiopia. According to the media, the video is estimated to have been recorded around January 15, 2021, though the news organization could not confirm the exact date. A man from the mountain town of Mehbere Dego in central Tigray told reporters that he believes he identified his younger brother in the video, recognizing the clothes he wore the last time on the same day of the massacre. The United States, Germany, France, and other G7 countries called on Friday for an independent and transparent investigation into alleged human rights abuses during the conflict in Ethiopia's northern Tigray region. Ethiopia's federal army ousted the former regional ruling party, the Tigray People's Liberation Front (TPLF), from the capital, Mekelle, in November. Thousands of people died, hundreds of thousands have been forced from their homes, and there are shortages of food, water, and medicine in the region. The government says most fighting has ceased, but there are still isolated incidents of shooting. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said last week Eritrea has agreed to withdraw troops it had sent during the fighting into Ethiopian territory along their mutual border amid mounting reports of human rights abuses. Eritrea has denied its forces joined the conflict. The G7 foreign minister of Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and the United States, and EU foreign policy chief Joseph Borrell expressed their concerns in a joint statement.
4 United Nations peacekeepers were reportedly killed in an attack by jihadists on their camp in northern Mali. The United Nations mission said the helicopters were dispatched to the scene to evacuate the wounded from the camp, which houses mostly Chadian peacekeepers.
The United Nations mission said that helicopters were dispatched to the scene to evacuate the wounded from the camp, which houses mostly Chadian peacekeepers. The United Nations mission said that the attackers suffered heavy losses and had abandoned several of their dead at the site of the attack. Mali has been trying to contain an Islamic extremist insurgency since 2012. Islamic extremist rebels were forced from power in Mali's northern cities with the help of a 2013 French-led military operation. However, the insurgents quickly regrouped in the desert and began launching frequent attacks on the Malian army and its allies fighting the insurgency. The extremists have expanded their reach well into central Mali, where their presence has inflamed tensions between ethnic groups in the area.
Woodland security forces have killed at least 20 ISIS fighters and wounded several others in an operation in the northeastern federal state. According to the security forces, they destroyed an ISIS base during security operations in the Al-Miskat Mountains. The federal government troops of Somalia claimed they captured some strategic districts in the Galgaduud region from Al-Shabaab fighters. The group has neither declined nor accepted the claim by the Somali troops. The Somali military commanders who spoke to the state-owned broadcasting said Sindaqo and Labidulle were among the new locations their troops have successfully captured from Al-Shabaab and affirmed killed dozens of the fighters in the scene. The government did not make available to the public the exact number they have killed or wounded from Al-Shabaab, but sustaining military operations will continue to remove the remaining areas from the group. On Saturday, Al-Shabaab launched a heavy attack on 2 Somali military bases. The militants raided a military base in Barire town as well as Audigle. Al-Shabaab launched a heavy attack on 2 Somali military bases on Saturday. The militants raided a military base in Barire town, attacked Audigle, fired mortars on Sabit and Anole, and detonated improvised explosive devices in the Lovole area. Al-Shabaab has attacked 2 Somali military bases in Audigle and Parire town in the lower Shabelle region. Residents say they could hear the gunfire between the two sides. Initial reports say the group detonated improvised explosive devices at the gates of the military bases in Parire and Audigle towns before the fighters stormed the bases, prompting fierce fighting. There was no immediate official comment or details on casualties, but Audigle authorities affirmed Somali forces resisted Al-Shabaab's attack and eventually defeated them. The Somalia government noted that the 2 bases are already in their control. Al-Shabaab claimed responsibility for the attack and confirmed they killed 47 soldiers. The 2 bases located about 100 kilometers southwest of the capital Mogadishu. The group has fought for more than a decade to topple the federal government of Somalia and carries out regular attacks against civilian and government targets, despite losing much of the territory it once controlled. According to the reports, Al-Shabaab fighters have targeted the Kenyan troops with improvised explosive devices in Lamu, Kenya. The Kenyan government has not yet commented on this incident. Al-Shabaab targeted Kenyan Defense Force vehicle with improvised explosive devices in Lamu, the northeastern of Kenya. Though immediate casualties have been reported, the Kenyan and Somali governments have neither accepted nor denied this attack. Al-Shabaab has claimed responsibility for the attack and killed Kenyan soldiers, including the driver. The group had previously carried out similar attacks against Kenyan troops in Somalia and Kenya. The KDF team is in charge of Sector 2 and 5 of AMISOM, mainly within the Jubaland state. Recently, Kenya Defense Forces commemorated the 5th anniversary of Al-Adha military raid. The attack, which remains the worst in KDF's history, left over 150 soldiers dead according to official reports in Nairobi. Kenya is major security partner of the federal government of Somalia, but the 2 nations have often been embroiled in diplomatic spats, especially in the past 2 years. There are close to over 3,500 soldiers from KDF serving in Somalia, and they are expected to leave in the coming months. The Nigerian Air Force has dismissed a viral video by Boko Haram where the group claimed it shot down a missing fighter jet early on Wednesday. The Air Force has declared the jet missing during an operation against the group in Pono.
The Nigerian Air Force has dismissed a viral video by Boko Haram where the terrorist group claimed it shot down a missing fighter jet. Earlier on Wednesday, the Air Force had declared the jet missing during an operation against terrorists in Borno, northern Nigeria. A day after the jet was declared missing, the Air Force said the plane may have crashed, but the cause of the crash was yet to be ascertained. Although the Air Force has disclosed the identities of its men aboard the missing aircraft, it has been unable to account for them. However, on Friday, Boko Haram claimed responsibility for the attack and released a video to back up its claims. While reacting in a statement, Edward Gapwet, spokesman of the Air Force, said Boko Haram fighters were not capable of bringing down the jets. The spokesman of the Air Force said further that although the video is still being thoroughly analyzed, it is evident that most part of the visuals were deliberately doctored to give the false impression that the aircraft was shot down. The Air Force says it remains resolute and will continue to work assiduously in synergy with sister services and other security agencies to rid the northeastern Nigeria of all terrorist elements. The loss of Nigerian Air Force Alpha Jet 475 dealt a blow to Nigeria's effort to combat jihadist insurgencies in the northeast, where air power has been crucial in attempts to stem the spread of Boko Haram and its more powerful offshoot, Islamic State, in West African province. Kamil Sadiq, CBA TV, Nigeria.
The United States and other G7 nations are condemning what they describe as human rights violations and calling for immediate access to Ethiopia's conflict-ridden Tigray region.
Foreign Affairs Minister Mark Geniu and his counterpart from France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom and the United States say in a joint statement they are extremely concerned people are starving as conditions in Ethiopia's northernmost region worsen. They strongly condemn report of mass civilian killings, sexual and gender-based violence, and the forced displacements of thousands of local residents and Eritrean refugees living there. They say it is essential that there is an independent, transparent and impartial investigation into the crimes reported, including holding those responsible for human rights abuses to account. Ethiopia declared war on the region in November in battle between Prime Minister Ahmed Abiy's national ruling party and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, which had ruled the semi-autonomous region. The conflict escalated quickly with accusation of war crimes, massacres and rape, many of which have been difficult to confirm because of a restricted access to the region by aid workers and journalists.
And with that story of the United States and other G7 nations condemning what they describe it as human rights violations and calling for immediate access to Ethiopia's conflict-ridden Tigray region, we'll wrap our program for this time. Thank you very much for being with us. This is me, Hamse Daabjeerin.